Welcome to your Canadiens Connection on Rocket Sports Radio. We are proud to be the trusted source for all things Habs for more than a decade. This is the Canadiens Connection Podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio, keeping you informed, engaged, and entertained every single week of the year. We are glad you're here with us today. My name is Amy Johnson. I'm going to be your host for today's show, and that is episode 328 of the Canadiens Connection podcast. And this week's show, it's a good one, titled Habs Goaltending Shakeup, evaluating Dobes, Primeau, and Montembeault. Lots to talk about today. And of course, no one else I'd rather talk about it with than our editor-in-chief, founder, and president at Rocket Sports. Also happens to be my co-host, who's right here in the studio. His name is Rick Stevens, and it's going to be a good day. How are you doing today, Mr. Rick Stevens?
Doing pretty good. Belated Merry Christmas, early Happy New Year.
Thank you.
To you and all of our listeners.
Same to you.
It's a good holiday season so far for most people, other than maybe Cayden Primeau and Dave Cameron, head coach of the 67s and Team Canada. I'm doing my fantasy football here. Since when do we have games on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday?
Yeah, it's the NFL needs to stop with this. It's getting a little silly. It's getting a little bit silly. What's not silly is the fact that in the Rocket Sports 3 Fantasy Football League, you and I are facing off for the championship.
Nice. So
I will let you know where you should send my winner's basket of goodies next week.
Well, and it's in the regular season standings, 5-6, something like that.
Yeah, I was team 6, you were team 5.
Yeah, we both were underdogs in the semis and beat the 1 and 2 place teams, so that's awfully nice.
It is. And I'm sorry that I'll have to beat you.
I see.
To win.
And it's awfully nice that we're going to see Jakub Dobes a little later today between the pipes for the Montreal Canadiens. And we're going to talk about that goaltending shakeup that's happening.
We are going to talk about that. Before we get there, though, we are going to take you on a rundown of what's happened in the past week since we all last met. We're going to take a look at the couple of games that the Canadiens have played over the course of the Christmas holiday, as well as get into some roster news. We have to talk about the World Juniors, which just 2 days in and some gigantic drama already. So we have to actually absolutely talk about that. We're going to get you, in addition to the World Juniors, we've got some more updates for you in terms of Canadiens prospects that we want to focus on, and some news from around the NHL. And then, yes, in our second segment, our big topic this week, Cayden Primeau is set to be put on waivers later today. And so we're going to take a look at kind of the state of affairs of the Canadiens' goaltending depth right now, and Sam Montembeault, Cayden Primeau, Jakub Dobes, what's happening, what's got us to this point, and where do they go from here? It's going to be a really interesting big topic segment that you'll want to stick around for. Great Canadiens Connection question of the week for you to kind of chew on and give us your great responses for. And we had some terrific responses to last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week. Can't wait to bring you those in the third segment. And we've got them from all sorts of different places, all sorts of different perspectives. Lots and lots of responses from our viewers and listeners over the course of the holiday. And so, as we always do, we're going to bring you some of the best answers in the third segment. Don't forget, if you would like to be part of the conversation here on the Canadiens Connection podcast, if you'd like to offer us your feedback or ask a question or answer the Canadiens Connection question of the week, kind of throw your hat in the ring and in hopes that you might have your answer read on the following week's show, The best way for you to do that is to text us anytime on the Rocket Sports text line. You can just send us a text at 585-3-ROCKET. Again, 585-3-ROCKET. You can also leave us a comment or an answer to anything, ask a question on our YouTube channel, as well as our other social media platforms. You can follow at Habs Connection on X, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find our YouTube channel where you can subscribe and comment there at InsideTheCanadiens.com. I think that covers it. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms as well. So let's take a quick look at the games that took place this past week, starting things off with the game against Detroit last Saturday night. That was the second half of a home-and-home series. And Montreal had managed, we spoke last week on the show that Montreal had managed to come out with a victory on Friday night in Detroit. Saturday night brought it back to the Bell Center in Montreal. And Montreal actually handled this one fairly well. In fact, their 5-1 victory over the Red Wings made one of Rick Stevens' holiday wish list items from 2 podcast episodes ago come true already. Just like that, like magic.
Yeah, asking Santa for a 3-game winning streak, and he came through.
Their first of the season.
Their first of the season, their first in quite some time. If you're a Detroit Red Wings fan, or in particular, a Detroit Red Wings head coach, you might think that the Canadiens had a little bit of assistance, and I know that Canadiens fans and certainly Marty St. Louis have grumbled about the officiating during the year. In this game, it all went Montreal's way, and Derek Lalonde on the bench. Now the former coach of the Detroit Red Wings, Derek Lalonde, was very upset. The Canadiens got, and yes, the Canadiens received some generous officiating in this game that helped them along to their first 3-game winning streak of the season.
Absolutely. So then could they make it a 4-game? Why not? If you've got your first 3-game winning streak of the season, why not make it 4? Could they do it? A rare Monday night game on the road in Columbus. And no, the short answer is no, they couldn't. Back in the losing column, but it was close, 5-4 in this game, but going the way of the Columbus Blue Jackets. But that wasn't really the story of Monday night's game. It was a rough night for a number of players on the Canadiens squad. And Patrik Laine did not finish that game. He played 1 period. It was his first return to Columbus since leaving the Blue Jackets and coming to Montreal. And that the Laine's return definitely played a big storyline role in that game, but really, it was there was a really rough night for a lot of Canadiens players in that game.
Yeah, the pregame shenanigans, and then once the game started, that dominated the story. And we'll talk about that later. As far as on the ice, it was a tough night. Mike Matheson
was awful.
Multiple errors on that led to the first goal against. And Sam Montembeault, 3 bad goals. He down early over his shoulder. The Columbus Blue Jackets had learned from Detroit that Patrick King goal. Carey was doing a lot of puck watching. So it was a tough game for some Montreal Canadiens. As far as the fourth line, Jake Evans, another breakaway goal. Yoel Armia. Evans was great in the face-off circle as well. That fourth line has just been something else for the last few weeks. As you said, Patrik Laine didn't get it back on the bench to start the second period, and then wasn't seen for the rest of the night. On the other side, Our dear friend Jordan Harris. We like Jordan Harris.
Yeah.
Traded in order to acquire Patrik Laine. That was his first goal as a Blue Jacket. He blasted it past Montembeault and a good guy and was very happy to get his first goal with Columbus.
That brings the Canadiens' season record to 14-17-3. That's 31 points, making them 26th in the NHL. It's slightly better than they have been.
Well, they've moved themselves out of a top 5 draft pick. Whether you like that or you don't like that, that's what's happened.
That's what's happened. Still really not great in the goal differential department with a minus 22. And in case you still were clinging to hopes of a playoff appearance, well, they've got just under a 5% chance of doing that.
Yeah, I'm not going to make the playoffs. 79-point season, that's what they're on pace for. But they, as I said, out of that top 5 draft pick.
In terms of the roster, it was a week of highs and lows for Patrik Laine, I think. It kicked things off in the week that he was the NHL's 3rd star for the week because he had 5 goals in 3 games last week, which, I mean, he had just been absolutely lighting things up on the power play and just bringing lots of energy and so forth. So that was a great way for him to start the week.
It was. He was on a high. Named the 3rd star behind Cale Makar was first. It was a Leaf, one of those Leafs that was second. And then Patrik Laine was the 3rd star.
One of those Leafs. Somebody. We know it wasn't Austin Matthews. That's
no.
And then we got around to the Columbus game on Monday. Naturally, this being Laine's first return to Columbus since the trade, obviously was going to get a lot of media attention. And needless to say, I mean, it's people bandy around the locker room material phrase quite a bit in competitive professional sports. So, and some of it, okay, maybe stuff gets used as locker room motivation. Others don't. This time it definitely was. And whatever ignited it, Laine's pre-game media conference in Columbus, well, let's just say it probably went a little farther than I can't say he intended, but probably farther than he would have liked to have taken it in retrospect, because it turned out to be pretty inflammatory.
Yeah, I know that there's been a lot of back and forth between Blue Jackets fans and Canadiens fans on social media. I don't think there's any explaining it. I don't think there's any excuse for it. Patrik Laine's comments were inflammatory. He shouldn't have said what he said, about the team, the organization, and in particular, the fans who had been good to him. If you miss them, and I doubt you did, a few quotes. We're not going to play them. We'll just give you a few of the quotes. He talked about being in Columbus and said, I feel like we were doing the same thing. This is a quote. Same thing year after year. I was tired of losing and just giving up when it's December to start focusing on next year. Not going to do that. That's frustrating as a player when you're trying to win. And some people are, not like that. They're a little too satisfied and too comfortable while they're at it. It really wasn't a fit for me anymore. I think that was probably bad enough. But then he went on. He said, and this is where it got moved over to the fans. Great to see that some of the fan base is happy to see me happy. For other ones, I really don't care what you think. I have no clue. It's not that I've lost any sleep over it. And this is about his reaction, predicting how the fans would react to him later that night. Hopefully it's positive. If it's not, I really don't care. If you guys are going to be pissed off and bitter about something, that's your issue. I'm having a great time regardless. I don't care what other people are saying. It'll be cool. It'll be cool to shut him down. There's always idiots who do that. Hopefully not the entire building with everything I did for the community and for the team. If somebody feels like they want to boo, I feel like they've got bigger issues going on than me coming back. And he talked about a culture of losing and on and on and on. It was ugly. It was ugly. It was uncalled for. Come in peace and don't let them. Whatever your feelings were about when you left the organization, it's there's been a cooling off period. He would have been better off just to say I appreciated the fan support while I was here, or something to that effect. It wasn't. I don't think it was healthy for Patrik Laine. I know, he feels freed to say what he truly feels, but it was the wrong situation.
I agree. I do think it's not off. I think this is part of the work. We talked in a recent episode about the fact that just because a player graduates from the NHLPA's player assistance program, it doesn't mean that the work is over. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a perfect example of that. And unfortunately, the public doesn't usually see in real life and in real time a player go through something that is them still working on the things that they need to work on. And I think that's what we saw here. I think probably Laine going back to Columbus probably dredged up a lot of really ugly feelings and memories. And I think that he wasn't prepared to confront that head on when it came to talking in the media. And that's what, and so this was the result. And I'm not saying that excuses him, but I think that it's likely maybe some of the base of where some of that came from. And I think, which is why I say, I think that in retrospect, I think that he'll at some point down the road regret how harsh everything sounded, and how inappropriate or uncalled for some of it sounded. And I just hope that he can turn a corner from that and learn from it, and that he can use it as another step of growth, because he's done a great job till now. Just like everything, there's going to be setbacks, and I think this was one of them.
And as a result, every time he touched the puck at Nationwide Arena, the Columbus fans booed him, and why wouldn't they? Yeah. He called them idiots, and he called the organization losers, It was felt that he was targeted, that he was dealt with harshly by the players on the ice. By count, he was hit 4 times.
And not gently.
Not gently, but nothing.
Nothing crazy.
But big open ice hit or nothing. Yeah. Nothing. And the one that he was apparently injured on, it was one that he initiated. As a result, he wasn't on the bench to start the second period, did not return to the game. The Canadiens said he was questionable to return. As it was, he didn't return with an upper body injury. And Renaud Lavoie said that the Canadiens shut him down as a precaution because that they felt that Columbus was targeting his previously injured shoulder. That would sounded, and listen, you can take things that reporter says with a grain of salt. Sometimes on the mark, sometimes not. Sometimes Canadians leak information to him. Sometimes correct, sometimes false. So take that for what it is. Marty St. Louis was asked after the game about how badly was he injured, and all he would say was he had no idea. He hadn't had a report. He said, I'll have to ask Rammer. And then he was asked on Friday at practice in Florida, about what about, it was Herb Zurkowsky that said, was he held out for precaution. And Marty's answer was awful. His eyes, his body, his posture, he was not being honest and forthright. It was clear. It was. And again, he said, haven't talked to Rammer yet.
Yeah, it's only been 5 days.
Yeah, Rammer is Jim Ramsey, the head athletic therapist. So who knows whether he was truly injured or whether they were just, it was a precaution. During the game, Patrik Laine was returning, and according to Aaron Portzline, Blue Jackets reporter, said that the Blue Jackets had prepared a video, a welcome back video for Patrik Laine. They were scheduled to play it during a TV timeout in the first period, but after what he said, they decided that afternoon that they were not going to show that video. And I, of course, after he trashes the organization, why would you put out a nice video and have fans boo all the way through that? Yeah. I mean, that's that. I think that was obvious. And then after the game, Blue Jackets, Zach Werenski, who had a great game, by the way, 3 assists, I think. Said he and fellow players in the Blue Jackets dressing room had taken exception to Patrik Laine's comments. Said they were nothing but good teammates to him when he was in Columbus, and we're really disappointed by what he said.
Well, even René Lavoie on RDS that during the game interviewed Matthew Olivier during the first intermission and asked Matthew Olivier, you guys seem to be really hitting Laine hard in that first period. Is that a result of what he said prior to the game? And Matthew Olivier literally said, no comment. Didn't want to talk about it. Wasn't going to go there. There were some harsh words said after the game in the post-game media conferences in the Columbus locker room for sure. Marty
St. Louis did what he thought was better to distance the treatment he received from Laine's comments. And after the game, Marty St. Louis said, listen, he's a good player. I would tell my players to be physical with one of their snipers in the same way. So he tried to distance themselves. I think it was a mistake. I think that you don't go in to another team's building, especially when you've been part of that organization, call them all losers. There are Canadiens fans that I've seen online saying that, the GM said that, so it's nothing wrong. Context, people. I really think that's a juvenile argument. When general manager Don Waddell in the summer, was the new president and GM, said one thing he was going to tackle was the culture, and that losing is unacceptable. But that's one thing for in the off season for an incoming GM to say that, and a completely other thing for a former player to go in and call everybody losers and say that the fans are idiots. You can't compare those things. And if you still don't understand that, let me paint a picture for you. When Hughes and Gorton and even Marty St. Louis, at the beginning of their tenure, they said one of the jobs they had was changing the culture, that the short winning periods followed by a lot of losing was not acceptable. They wanted to change the culture. They wanted to change the dressing room. They were going to be very selective about who they added to the dressing room to make sure that they were going to build a sustainable contender. And that was okay for Habs fans. But imagine now Max Pacioretty coming in as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs and saying, that the Montreal Canadiens organization is a bunch of losers. I mean, yes, it's okay for the new regime to say those things in the offseason or when they're coming in. another thing for a former player to come in and say those. You have to understand context to understand how wrong it was for Patrik Laine to say what he said.
Agreed. And I've given my take on it that I think that it's going to be a learning lesson for him, and that I think there were some other things at play for him. And so hopefully they'll just be able to move on from it. Laine actually made the trip to Florida this weekend. He's on the plane, practiced with the team on Friday. So we will wait to see if he should be back on the ice on Saturday afternoon. You talked a little bit about some of the positive players on the roster who have been really kind of help things keep moving along even when nothing else is working. Emil Heineman certainly has been one of them. He's got 8 goals. Third among NHL rookies.
In very limited ice time. He has 8 goals. The 2 players ahead of him both have 11 goals. That's Matvei Michkov and Macklin Celebrini. Safe to say those 2 players get a lot more ice time and play with a lot more offensive talent than does Emil Heineman. But good for Heineman in the way he's playing in just around 11 minutes per game on the fourth line with Armia and Evans.
Speaking of Evans, 21 points in 34 games, 6 points in just the last 4 games.
And Armia has 4 points in the last 4 games. That fourth line's been terrific.
Maybe they should not be the fourth line. Maybe they should move up.
Well, it also speaks to the fact that Michael Pezzetta continues to watch from the press box.
Yeah. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Friday morning, Canadiens recalled goaltender Jakub Dobes from the Laval Rocket. Dobes with a 9-3-1 record in Laval, a 2.44 goals against average, and a 9.10 save percentage in just 14 games. That is because he was out with an injury for just a little bit of time. And so he has not played a full season yet with them this season so far. But he's picked up where he left off at the end of last season. And we'll talk more about Jakub Dobes and his development progression a little later in the show. But, last year it was a really tough start for him in the first half of the year. A lot of that was due to the fact that JFL and the Canadiens organization did not have the right goaltending partner to mentor him during his rookie campaign. Once a stopgap was made around the holiday season with Kazimir Kaskasuo coming in, then Dobes really turned things around and was able to have a great second half of the season, and he's kind of picked right up there this year and has done tremendously as well. Yeah,
he was in his first pro season. He was tossed in the deep end without any kind of safety net, and it was a challenging adjustment that he had to make. But he was terrific. 51 starts last season, and for a rookie, it was unprecedented. One of the better goalies in the American Hockey League last season, and certainly had a good start. Apart from the injuries, he's had a very good start this season.
He is expected to make his NHL debut later this afternoon in Florida against the Panthers. Keep in mind, the Canadiens are doing a back-to-back with a very short turnaround, both afternoon games in Florida, one versus the Panthers, one versus Tampa Bay. So it looks like Dobes will get the Panthers, Montembeault will get Tampa Bay.
Talk about getting thrown in the deep end.
A little bit of a tall task for your NHL debut as a goaltender.
Debut, you face the reigning Stanley Cup champions in their building. And the Canadiens haven't beat the Panthers in Florida in 6 years, since December 28th, 2018. Who was in goal that night? It was Antti Niemi. Yeah, it was that long ago. On that team was also Arturi Lehkonen, the same Arturi Lehkonen that had a hat trick last night in Colorado. His first NHL hat trick. Congratulations to Lehkonen.
My fantasy hockey team appreciates it. And just as a reminder, Dobes was a 5th round draft pick for the Canadiens in the 2020 draft. He was drafted 136th overall. So, we've said it before. We'll say it again. We'll probably say it more times in the future. Goaltending prospects typically take the longest to develop. And so you're seeing he was drafted in 2020. It's now almost 2025, and he's going to make his NHL debut today. We wish him the best of luck. The flip side of that is that now that the NHL roster freeze ended at midnight, Cayden Primeau is expected to be placed on waivers this afternoon with the intent to send him to the Laval Rocket. Again, we'll talk about this more in detail in the big topic second segment coming up in a bit, and what the potential is with that move, placing Primeau on waivers. Otherwise, we'll just have to see how Dobes does in his debut. Hopefully he's going to come out okay. Since we are talking about a prospect making his debut, let's switch gears and, not switch gears, but let's continue that with a check-in on the Habs prospect report.
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world.
So we're going to start, instead of focusing directly on Canadiens prospects right off the bat in this report, we're going to start with the World Juniors because there is a Canadiens prospect playing in Ottawa at the World Junior Championship. Just one.
Just one. Just one.
Playing for Sweden.
And maybe not your most recognizable name value in terms of prospects. This fellow was taken in the 7th round, second to last pick, 224 overall in the most recent 2024 NHL draft. His name is Rasmus Bergqvist, plays for Sweden at the World Junior Championships and normally plays in the SHL for Skellefteå. Bergqvist, I thought it was interesting that all in the pregame that he was, going to be in a complementary role. He's not known as a goal scorer, hasn't scored a goal yet for Skellefteå, but he started the series on the top pairing with Axel Sandin Pellikka as his partner and who he also plays with in Skellefteå. And he scored the first goal of the tournament for Sweden. A great goal, a great shot. And it was really fun to see him be so excited about that.
Mm-hmm. In fact, shortly after, he was asked what it was like to score at the World Juniors.
It felt nice, and it was good.
Now your D partner, Axel Sandin Pellikka, who just gave you a little nod there, you guys play together also in Skellefteå. Tell me about your chemistry.
Yeah, I've been playing with him sometimes during games, and he's good, so I don't know, he always finds a solution.
Yeah, he's good.
He always finds a solution. I think, and Sandin Pellikka had a hat trick.
He did. He had a great game.
He is good. But the two were, Bergqvist, solid defensively, can get physical, and the offensive flair of a Sandin Pellikka, a great pairing at the World Juniors as well in their at home in the SHL. So a good start for Bergqvist, and you want to keep an eye on him as the tournament goes on.
Now, if hockey fans, and in particular Canadian hockey fans, were excited about the fact that Team Canada opened their tournament with a shutout against Finland, who can be problematic when they want to be. Well, things quickly went south on Friday night. Probably most people, and maybe Team Canada as well, thinking that Friday night's game was almost a write-off as Canada faced Latvia on Friday night. And in probably one of the most exceptionally stunning games to watch, particularly on day 2 of the tournament in recent history. Not only losing to Latvia, but losing in an 8-round shootout to Latvia. Just absolute stunner.
A stunner. It was one of the biggest upsets in World Juniors history. Matejko, Washington Capitals prospect, scored in the 8th round. It was just hard to watch, hard to believe. With Latvia tying it up. There were
twice in the third period.
Yeah, there were no 5-on-5 goals. Canada, despite outshooting Latvia by a wide margin, didn't score 5-on-5. There was a power play goal. There was a shorthanded goal. Latvia with 2 power play goals. Canada took a too many men penalty in overtime. It was ridiculous. The Latvian goaltender stopped 54 of 56 Canadian shots. He was 8 for 8 in the shootout.
Not a single goal in the shootout for Canada.
No, and I think there was 90 in the neighborhood of 90 shot attempts, lots of block shots. But I must say that, and you know, the folks that watch junior hockey closer than we do said that, you know, there wasn't a lot of high quality scoring chances, despite all of those shots. Are wondering about the firepower of Canada. Canada, their selections were criticized heavily before they even went to the tournament, leaving skill behind, bringing a team that would compete, and yet it was the Latvians that outworked the Canadians, that outcompeted the Canadians. Throughout this game, it was stunner. And if you still don't understand how stunning an upset this was, I thought it was put really well by Chris Peters. Peters, Flow Hockey's been on the show. We talked about him last week. His tweet after the win, coming into tonight, that was Friday night, Canada had played Latvia 4 times at the World Juniors. They had outscored them 41-4 in those meetings. Mm-hmm. That was incredible. That's incredible. And I think someone else had said that Latvia had only won at the tournament twice previously, won games twice previously. And to beat Canada.
In Canada,
unbelievable. And you wonder about, well, what was Michael Hage thinking as he's watching? And yes, I know Hockey Canada is not going to select a Canadian who plays in the NCAA, but still, or players like Beckett Seneca left behind, Zane Perek, Andrew Christel, and the news that now that Team Canada is going to be out without Matthew Shaver. Matthew Shaver is a top prospect for the 2025 NHL draft, top defenseman on the team. And he left in the first period, and on Saturday we now learned that he's got a broken collarbone and it's going to be out for a few months. That's a big loss for Canada as well, and a big loss for the young man's draft here. So
it just was absolutely, you couldn't believe what you were seeing. I feel for Team Canada's and I feel for Canada's fans. I will say, just out of pure love for hockey, I also have to give credit to Latvia and just that was their gold medal moment. Honestly, you could tell the way those boys reacted, and the way their fans reacted. I mean, that was an enormous moment for them. They don't have a lot of time to bask in it, though, because I'm sure Team USA, I even mentioned this last night watching the game, that I'm sure Team USA was sitting in their hotels watching, or maybe even at the rink watching, saying, well, thank you, Team Canada. They're going to celebrate really hard tonight. And then Latvia has to turn around and face Team USA at 3:30 this afternoon. US will have been rested from not playing on Friday after they put up 10 goals against Germany on the opening day of the tournament. So
What an awful schedule to start the tournament, having to face Canada and then the U.S. In consecutive days. But not only that, with less than 24 hours rest. Awful schedule. But that's, for a team that typically finishes at the bottom of the standings and is sometimes relegated, that's what happens. But again, that makes their win against Canada that much more surprising and stunning. Feldberg, the goaltender, after the game was just walking on a cloud. He was so excited, and
he's going to be a national hero.
Oh, absolutely. On the Canadian side, head coach Dave Cameron. I'm not a Dave Cameron fan. When he was with Ottawa, the Senators, now he's with the 67s, but. He said, his quote was, if we played the same match 10 times, we'd come out with 9 victories. So it's not a regression. I don't know if that's true, Dave. I don't know that that's true. Team Canada did not play well enough, did not work hard enough. And as I said before, some are questioning the way the roster was put together. If you're thinking we've heard this story before, remember that Latvian team? This goes back to the thoughts of the 2014 Olympics, where Canada faced the Winter Olympics, where Canada faced Latvia and fired 57 shots at Kristers Gudlevits. He saved 55. Canada ended up eventually winning 2-1, but it was a nail biter. Carey Price in the goal for Team Canada, and it was Shea Weber who scored the game-winning goal late in that game. Marty St. Louis played in that game, had 1 shot on goal and 2 penalty minutes.
Oh my goodness. Well, look forward to Boxing Day and the kickoff of World Juniors every year. But I have to say, this has been quite an exciting first 2 days of the tournament. Looking forward to seeing what day 3 and the rest brings. It's certainly already been a good one. And also stick tap to the crowds in Ottawa. Ottawa has turned out some really good fans so far for the first 2 games.
And fans for all teams, with dressed in gear for all teams, which is nice to see.
Moving over to our regular prospect report. Speaking of goaltenders, Canadiens goaltending prospect Mikus Vatsvenaks signed a contract with the Acadie Bathurst Titan of the QMJHL on Friday. So I guess that means soon to be of the St. John's, Newfoundland.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah.
That's where he'll be headed.
So tell us a little bit about this, signing a contract with Acadie Bathurst. This is another one of those. Was playing in the BCHL, slated to play in the NCAA, not next year, but the following. So this is kind of like his in-between junior hockey path.
Guess where he's from? Latvia.
Well, I'm pretty sure that he probably called up.
He was
probably texted his buddy last night.
He had a good day on Friday, not only signing a contract with the Titan, but watching his countrymates at the World Juniors. He was selected again at the 2024 NHL draft, 5th round, 134th overall. One of these prospects, goaltending prospects that nobody had heard of. Vinny Riondo unearthed this fellow. He had played 5 games with the Brooks Bandits of the BCHL. A good record of 4-1-0, 318 goals against, 881 save percentage. He is committed to the University of Maine in the NCAA for the 2026-27 season. So he'll be with the Teton a little bit. A little side story, which when I saw this, I thought the Teton, wasn't he supposed to play at the Armada? Well, it was Marty Lapointe during development camp that said he's, a little hint here, he's going to be with the Armada this fall. Unfortunately, that was before the import draft, and the Teton scooped this goaltender before he was able to be taken by the Armada. So that's the story on him.
What would a prospect update be without a quick check-in on Ivan Demidov? Well, I know we're starting to sound like a broken record, but hey, guess what? The KHL Rookie of the Week again. Just the fourth time this season that he's been the KHL Rookie of the Week. He's on a bit of a tear.
Goals in 4 consecutive games. 4 goal scoring streak. I can't say that. You said.
So we'll see how far he can take this scoring streak. He has scored at least 1 goal in the last 4 games. We'll see if he can make it 5. Now has 10 goals and 17 assists for 27 points in 38 games. This kid's going to be primed and ready to come to North America next year, I think. Mm-hmm. Laval has had kind of an up and down week in terms of their games. They had a good victory against the Springfield Thunderbirds last week, over last weekend, winning 3-1 over Springfield. Then they had their Christmas break. Now, of course, their first game back was Friday night, where they're hosting the Syracuse Crunch in a back-to-back series Friday night, and then Saturday afternoon they'll play at 3 or 3:30. Of course, it just so happens that that's the day earlier that morning, Friday morning, Jakub Dobes was recalled to the Montreal Canadiens, and so that means that they never, when Dobes was injured, they had recalled Luke Kavelin from the Trois-Rivières Lions, and they had never sent him back. So that left Connor Hughes, Luke Kavelin as the duo. Connor Hughes, of course, getting the start on Friday night. The entire team looked like they were still on Christmas break. It was not a well-played game by Laval. Syracuse, who has quite frankly been struggling this year, they're in the bottom half of the North Division. Syracuse took full advantage of it. There were plenty of penalty minutes as usual. I believe Brandon Gignac they might have lost to injury during the game. It was not good. Syracuse won 4-1. It was a very poorly played game by Laval, and they don't have a lot of time to recover from it because, as I say, they go again this afternoon. And now the big question is going to be, since Cayden Primeau is not being put on waivers until today, Saturday, it means he will not be eligible to play for Laval because they won't know yet if he's actually assigned to the Rocket or not. So the question will be, does Connor Hughes go back-to-back in less than 24 hours, or does Luke Kavelin get a start, which would be challenging as well? So,
yeah, and Connor Hughes wasn't particularly sharp against Syracuse. Pascal Vincent was asked whether he was going to be making changes to the lineup for the afternoon matchup, and as told to our own Chris G, Pascal Vincent said, I don't want to make decisions with the emotions that I have right now. Coach was a little upset. I want to make sure that I'm as objective and calm as possible.
More than a little upset, maybe?
It will be very easy to take players out. We have a lot of healthy players, so I have options. We're going to be hearing a little more from Pascal Vincent later on, but thanks to Chris for that quote. One more note just on the Laval's games this week. If you're a fan of the fisticuffs, game of between the Laval Rocket and Springfield early in the week, the fight between Florian Jacquet and Sam Bitten was furious. It was, and I would have to say Sam Bitten got a bit better of the contact. He I would say, if you're counting blows, he won that fight, but still a tremendous fight between Florian Jacquet and Sam Bitten.
Owen Beck dropped the gloves on Friday night against Syracuse in that game.
He's going to be a leader for the Canadiens for a long time.
Yes, he will. In the ECHL, the Trois-Rivières Lions dropped their first game of the week against Norfolk, but got right back to winning against Adirondack on Friday night. And so they still hold on to their 5th overall place in the ECHL. They're doing a great job. And of course, just keep in mind, if you'd like more detailed information about Laval or the Trois-Rivières Lions, be sure to follow at Rocket Sports on X, where you will get at least weekly the written articles from our own Chris G with his weekly Rocket notepad and Lions notepad, getting you all up to speed on how the prospects are doing in the AHL and the ECHL.
We've been posting on Hockey Buzz a little bit, and we have a Substack channel, so look for Rocket Sports on Substack as well. I think you'll be glad you did. Follow us there.
Definitely. Just a couple of notes before we take our first break here on the show. Rick mentioned it when we were doing the recaps of the games that the Canadiens played this week, but Derek Lalonde, although he was coaching the Detroit Red Wings when the Canadiens played them last week, he is no longer behind the bench for Detroit. He was fired on Thursday, replaced by Todd McClellan. So that is another coaching change in the NHL for this season. There's been a few.
Following the Detroit Red Wings scribes on this, and the beat reporters say that the feeling was from the Red Wings that Lalonde came in with, he had plenty of assistant coaching experience and so on, but came in as a new head coach, and that as the Red Wings go through their rebuild, he had taken them to a certain point, and now it was time that the prospects and the players, the core players that Detroit had, needed an experienced NHL head coach, and that is Todd McClellan.
Kent and Jeff, are you listening?
I thought it was oddly
paging Hughes and Gordon.
Thought it was oddly familiar, the kinds of things that they were saying with respect to Lalonde and McClellan.
We'll see. I'm going to have to give a giant thumbs down on this next bit of news. And it makes me kind of sad, because when it comes to the Utica Comets in the AHL, and in particular their arena, the Adirondack Bank Center, we are usually all thumbs up. It's a great older barn. It's a smaller arena, but it's loud. You're close to the action. The fans are fantastic. Always have great things to say about every time we have witnessed a game at the Adirondack Bank Center at the Utica Memorial Auditorium. But I don't like this one. They've become a first. They are the first arena in North America to install a 360-degree digital dashboard system. That means the entirety of their boards on that rink will be digital LED ads.
Yeah. Now,
I don't like it.
We're not talking about like the NHL has developed, where you see them superimposed on TV. And this is in the building. This is in the building, a 360-degree digital dasher board system. In the NHL, you see the odd rink. I think Ottawa does, and
behind the bench.
San Jose. Well, no, like in the boards, one board in the arena will be digital, and it's bright. But this is all the way around, and it's something that they use in Europe. It's a company in Finland that has installed this in Utica, and this is a project, a test project. Why we're mentioning it here? Number one, yes, you're right. Going to a game in Utica, it's a small 3,500 seat arena. The fans are on top. It's if you like AHL hockey, it's one of the best places. Like Place Bell is great to watch. The arena in Lehigh Valley, it's great. But the Utica Memorial Auditorium, small, one of the best places to watch an AHL game. Hershey's great too. Patrick Williams will tell you that. But why we're telling you is because this is a pilot project run by the NHL and the AHL to test whether this digital dashboard system can be brought to the rest of the AHL and then the NHL. These boards will have the ability to do all kinds of things, graphics and whatnot. We're told that during the action they'll be static, and then they'll go nuts during stoppages and certainly during intermission and whatnot. They're going to be unveiled. We're recording on Saturday tonight. As the Utica Comets host the Rochester Americans. If this comes to an NHL rink, you'll say, I heard it first on the Canadiens Connection.
That's right. I might have to pop my head into this game on Saturday night for 5 minutes to see how it looks. My concern, honestly, I mean, I'm not one to tell anybody how to spend their money, but there are other improvements at that rink that could be made with that money first. But even though the ads are supposed to be supposedly going to be static during gameplay, I still wonder if the reflection of the LEDs around the entire board system
on the ice,
is going to affect the reflection on the ice and how players and specifically goaltenders see the puck when it's close to the boards.
Well, and I think that's the test, right? That's the pilot project to see if players lose the puck in the boards. If they, if the boards that we know there's springier boards, more active boards, more lively boards around the league. How's the puck going to come off a LED
panel
digital dasher system? All of that is to be figured out, and we'll be watching.
I don't know,
with
line up a
interest.
whole bunch of old TVs and shoot pucks off of them and see how they rebound. We'll give you our thoughts if we take a look. Last but not least,
it's Canadiens Connection, so former Canadian.
And I don't know, a full circle moment, sort of. New York Islanders head coach Patrik Laine pulled his goaltender with just about 12 minutes left in the third period. They weren't even halfway through the third period.
Remember when, like 5 minutes ago, when Patrik Laine was revolutionary for pulling his goalie with like 3 minutes left, and now everybody's kind of followed his lead in that respect. He pulled his goalie with 12 minutes left in the Islanders Buffalo Sabres game.
Why not just not have a goaltender for the third period? Why don't we just start that trend?
That's more than half.
That's nuts.
Yeah, 11:52 of the third period, with 11:52 remaining. The Islanders were down 5-1, I think, at that point. It
didn't go well.
Well, they scored Buffalo scored an empty net goal, and then they got another goal when the goalie was put back in. So they lost that game 7-1, but Patrik Laine, again, being revolutionary.
I mean, JF Uhl used to pull Jakub Dobes with like 5 minutes
5 minutes,
left.
yeah, that's right.
Which sometimes worked and many times didn't. Oh, boy. All right. We are going to take our first break here on the Canadiens Connection podcast. You're not going to want to go anywhere, because up next we are tackling our big topic segment, Primeau on waivers. What is the Canadiens' plan for the Crease? We are going to take a deep dive on what's going on with the goaltenders in Montreal right after this. So stick with us. You're listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
You know, watching our favorite NHL players is just the gift that keeps on giving. And playing Pick 6 from DraftKings, an official partner of the NHL, is a way to take a shot at even more cash prizes. You can download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a statistic. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. And speaking of gifts, new Pick 6 customers play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Happy holidays from DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast here on Rocket Sports Radio. Once again, my name is Amy Johnson. You can find me on X at Flyers Rule. And of course, with me in the studio is our president and founder of Rocket Sports, Rick Stevens. You'll want to be sure to follow him at Rocket Sports on X as well. Just a reminder, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Canadiens Connection podcast, just right there in the player, however you are currently listening to the show. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, and even if you're not, head over to YouTube, subscribe there as well. InsideTheCanadiens.com is the easiest way to find us on YouTube. So following the Christmas break, the Canadiens this afternoon have said that they will be putting Cayden Primeau on waivers. Friday, they recalled 23-year-old Jakub Dobes from the Laval Rocket. And quite frankly, this was probably one of the most unsurprising things. Probably as unsurprising as hearing "fix you" before the team comes out of the locker room on a game day.
Which everybody loves.
We do. Yeah, we do. Not going there on the last podcast of 2024.
Completely predictable.
Yeah.
I'm sure even Cayden Primeau sensed that this was coming.
Because he hasn't appeared in game action since December 12th against the Penguins, and that wasn't a start. That was coming in to relieve Sam Montembeault after he was pulled for the 3,000th time this season.
He leads the league in being pulled from the net 4 times this season. Sam Montembeault has been pulled from a game.
So that's the last time Primeau has appeared on the ice during a game. That was December 12th, more than 2 weeks ago, in relief of Sam Montembeault. His last start was at the beginning of the month, December 1st, against the Boston Bruins. Didn't go so well. Gave up 5 goals on 29 shots.
Centennial game for the Bruins.
That's right. Primeau is starting to be as MIA as Michael Pezzetta, quite frankly. And the only reason that we've seen him even, before the 12, as you say, Montembeault's been pulled 4 times. So that's just 4 extra times that we have seen Primeau on the ice this season when he wasn't starting. He's been on the bench as a backup as Montembeault has made 10 consecutive starts, including a home and home on back-to-back nights. And he was the backup. So it's obvious. St. Louis, the organization, does not have confidence in Primeau at this point anymore. And it was, well, I will say it was well overdue for him to be placed on waivers, and I don't mean well overdue this season. We're going to get to that in a bit. But it's just been, Cayden Primeau has unfortunately been a mismanagement story from the get-go.
Yeah, appeared in 11 games this season. His numbers are not good. He has struggled. As we said, 4 of those appearances were in relief for Sam Montembeault. Only started 7 games this year and can't get into any kind of rhythm. And let's be honest, the games that were probably the most difficult, like going into that Rabbit Garden during the Centennial game against the Bruins. He didn't stand a chance in that game. He hasn't got much support. Certainly not from Marty St. Louis. Marty St. Louis is clear. He sent the message that he lost confidence in Cayden Primeau, and then said, and then wonders why Cayden Primeau has lost confidence in himself.
Mm-hmm. We've had the 3 goalie rotation. We saw numerous times of the last years how that did not work. And really, when I said a moment ago that putting him on waivers now is well overdue, and I don't mean just this season, it's because honestly, they should have placed him on waivers last year. And we could, this is not an I told you so thing. This is just a frustration thing of we saw the writing on the wall for this more than a year ago, that Cayden Primeau, this was not going to work out. And that Cayden Primeau still was not ready for the NHL. They should have put him on waivers last year. They should have traded him last year at any point where he was actually maybe doing kind of well, maybe showing a little bit of consistency and had some confidence. They should have traded him at that point. Because now, I honestly think that he'll make it through waivers. Unless somebody's really desperate, I imagine he's gonna show up in Laval. Especially
because he has to be on the NHL roster. Now, a team can carry 3 goaltenders, I guess, but it's unlikely that he'll be claimed. Last year, when we were saying put him on waivers, it was always, oh my God, what if he's claimed? And it was like, so what? Our reaction was fine. Yeah. A problem solved. It was a mistake not putting him on waivers. We could play a million clips from the podcast last year, us pleading with put Cayden Primeau on waivers. And you had all the folks who can't be bothered to make their way to Laval saying, yes, but goalies develop late, and maybe he still has. But have you watched him play? He was not dominant in the NHL, in the AHL. He was decent, but he didn't have the kind of performance in the AHL that gave you confidence that he could be an NHL goaltender. It was really frustrating to watch. And we advocated, rather than keep Primeau and Montembeault, keep Jake Allen.
Yes.
And there were some reports that maybe there was teams reaching out to see if Primeau was available. Well, trade him. Or, like I say, put him on waivers. If he gets to Laval, fine. If he gets claimed, fine too. And then you would have Sam Montembeault have a mentor. You would have and what is the 2 players that the Canadiens desperately need this season. You've heard some of the Montreal reporters saying maybe they should go out and find a veteran goaltender to support Sam Montembeault. What, like Jake Allen?
Yeah, you had one.
You had one, and you mismanaged that situation. The Canadiens, what they need is an experienced right-handed defenseman who can play the penalty kill. Like Jonathan Kovacevic.
You had one.
You mismanaged. And listen, we went over the trades, some brilliant trades, some brilliant moves by Gorton and Hughes, but some real stinkers. The way they handled the goaltending situation, in my opinion, is one of them. And now to let a guy rot on the bench and then lose all his confidence and then complain that he doesn't have any confidence is mismanagement from the general manager level as well as the coaching level.
And in Cayden Primeau's defense, he has got to be sick of this as well. Because this is not the first time that this has happened where he's been mismanaged and then loses his confidence and then ends up having to go back to Laval in the AHL and start all over again. When Monty started the back-to-back games in the Detroit home and home series last week, I even said At what point does Cayden Primeau's agent say, we need to start asking for a trade because this is getting ridiculous? And here we are almost a week later, and he's on waivers. We'll see what happens.
And is it helping Sam Montembeault? You heard Sam Montembeault after he made his 10th consecutive start against Columbus, and he was terrible in that. Be honest, he was awful in that game. He made a good save here and there, but as far as being a consistent goaltender, who isn't making obvious mistakes, who isn't getting beat with soft goals, he was not there. And he was asked, and he said, he was tired. His legs were heavy. He wasn't at his best. Well, that's because he started 10 consecutive games. It's not a benefit to Sam Montembeault either.
It's really not. And Eric Raymond, who is the goaltending coach for the Montreal Canadiens, he has a really I don't envy his job right now, because look at what he's got to work with. And if I hear one more person, including Marty St. Louis, including members of the media, talk about how wonderful Sam Montembeault has been this season, I am going to scream, because I'm sorry, he hasn't been. In fact, he's been worse this season than he was last season. He's not consistent. What he does is he comes up with a spectacular save here and there, and that becomes the story. And magically, all of the other mistakes that he makes in a game miraculously disappear because he does one or two things that really impress people.
Oh boy, do we have a quote from Pascal Vincent coming up on, he wasn't talking about Montembeault, but talking about what makes a good goaltender. And that's going to answer that question. Listen, as you said, Eric Raymond has a tough job. He's taken a flawed goaltender in Montembeault, and wrapped him up in chicken wire and masking tape, and tried to minimize his flaws. Montembeault has never been a strong technical goaltender. In junior, he was agile and athletic, but he struggles at the NHL level with his reads. He doesn't make quick reads, and therefore can't move quickly. He doesn't anticipate the play very well, and so you see him giving up a lot of goals, wraparound goals, or goals where he has to go post to post. He doesn't have strong technical skills. When he's up against the post, you see goals going over his shoulder and so on. So Eric Raymond has moved him back in the crease to cut down that distance, to make it easier for him to go laterally, side to side. But playing deeper in the crease isn't a cure-all. That opens up other flaws, and now he's giving up a lot of goals over his glove. And he had a good glove in junior hockey, but that is to cure one thing, because you have a flawed technical goaltender. You create other problems, and that's why Montembeault is not very consistent.
Well, we're gonna hear from Marty St. Louis in a few minutes, and he's gonna say something that is partially what triggered my very strong outburst statement of a few minutes ago. But one thing you want to make sure you don't do is don't keep asking St. Louis about why he hasn't been playing Primeau, because apparently the coach has no patience for reporters asking legitimate questions about his roster choices. Yeah,
he was asked about a couple of times during the week, asked about the lack of playing time for Primeau, and he gave a curt answer. And then as he's walking away, just bolted away from reporters, he dropped an expletive that starts with, in French, taber, and ends in neck, and as he's muttering, something like that, as he's walking away from reporters, he's not upset. He's not patient when people question his choices. Well, that's part of the job, Marty. Hate to break it to you. Does this situation remind you of another
goaltending situation that we've seen before in the NHL in recent years?
Well, which one would that be?
Well, let's go with the franchises just down the road from Montreal.
All right, then.
The Ottawa Senators.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Hammond.
Well, Andrew, yeah. No, I think with respect to Andrew Hammond, when his name comes to my mind, I'm thinking there's a lot of people out there saying Andrew Hammond is going or a discarded, unused, little used, experienced goaltender is going to be the solution for the Montreal Canadiens, and they tried that with Hughes bringing in an Andrew Hammond. I think that was maybe Hughes's first trade.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out, and so on. And I don't think, again, they wouldn't be in this situation considering having to go out and get, or at least some saying that they should consider going out and get an experienced goaltender if they had hung on to Jake Allen. It's a little frustrating. And again, as you say, not to say, we were right about this. It's about to say this stuff was well known to people, and people in the industry. People in the industry see this. People in the hockey world see this. People in the hockey community are well aware of what's going on in Montreal. And we're going to play a quote from Marty Biron in a minute. But first, let's hear from Marty St. Louis on why it was necessary to place Cayden Primeau on waivers.
Well, I think we need Primes to go back and build his confidence back up, and I think it was hard for him to do that here. He wasn't getting many starts or consecutive starts, and a little bit of that is Monte was playing so well. It was hard to go away from him. So I think Prime is still a young goaltender that's got still a great future in front of him, and it's just part of his process right now. Where sometimes you're going to take a step back and go rebuild yourself and come back up. You saw it last year with Army. Army went down, and he went to work and came back a different version. So that's what you hope. I think we have all the resources for these players, to work on their game, to build their game back physically, emotionally, and he's going to use some of those resources and get after it.
Yeah, I don't see any parallels between the old Armia situation and the Cayden Primeau. The lack of confidence is an issue that was caused by the Montreal Canadiens, was caused by the fact that he wasn't in the lineup, that he wasn't getting a regular turn, that he couldn't anticipate when he'd be in the net. We've seen, previous coaching regime, where they map out the season for the most part and give the 2/3, 1/3 split if you want, whatever the split is. Have it so goaltenders know when they're going to start, and in that way realize that the coach has confidence that they'll follow that schedule. And the fact that, Montembeault was on a hot streak. He was lighting it up. He was too hot to take out of the net. That's just, I'm sorry, it's nonsense, utter nonsense. The Canadiens are 26th in the National Hockey League. They ran off a modest 3-game winning streak. It's silly that those comments from Marty St. Louis are silly.
It's what gets me infuriated. It was hard to go away from him because he had been playing so well. The guy who's been pulled more often than any other goaltender in the NHL this season. Are you kidding me? And for me, there are one of two reasons Marty St. Louis makes that statement. He either A, believes it, and if that's the case, that's troubling. Or B, he knows it's false and is spouting it off anyway, which is also not good because he's just being disingenuous and dishonest about why the decisions are being made that are being made. And it's just absolutely frustrating. We've said time and time again, and it's been shown time and time again, and I'm not just talking this year, I'm not talking last year, I'm not talking just the year before that, but over and over and over and over again, there has been a steady progression of Cayden Primeau is not ready for the NHL. Cayden Primeau is still not ready for the NHL. Nope, Cayden Primeau still not ready for the NHL. And all of that is not a dig on Cayden Primeau. It's okay if a goaltender is not ready for the NHL. Stop trying to force it and just let him, as the kids like to say these days, let him cook as long as he needs to in the AHL, and stop trying to make him an NHL star on some other preconceived timeline. We were fortunate to have hockey analyst and former NHL goaltender Marty Biron join us here on the show a number of times over the last few years. And we particularly like having him on the show when he is able to talk about goaltending. And we had Marty on the show back in the summer of 2023, so just about a year and a half ago, talking about the goaltending depth for the Montreal Canadiens. And this is going to sound eerily relevant today, but let's just remember what Marty Biron had to say about Cayden Primeau's game and the way he plays and how that relates to being able to play in the NHL. Listen to what Marty Biron told us exclusively on the show back in July 23.
I don't think the Canadiens are worried that they would lose Cayden Primeau if they had to put him on waivers to send him to Laval. And when it comes to Cayden Primeau, maybe it's not his fault. Like, it's very hard when you have development years, your first, second, third season pro hockey as a goaltender, especially as a goaltender, you need to play. You need to be able to play and play a lot of games. Well, in his second year, where he was supposed to take a step forward, was the 2020-2021 season that obviously was the pandemic year. And he only played a dozen and a half games in the American League that year. His first year pro got stopped because of the COVID pandemic. So his first 2 years pro were very much affected by the pandemic, and it affected more goaltenders than it affected players. And so, unfortunately for Cayden Primeau, that's what happened. But I also think that I watched Cayden Primeau play, and I think that there's big deficiencies in his game. I don't think he's got the NHL speed. So maybe he's had good success at the AHL level, but then he gets to the NHL, and I think the speed is very, very evident that it's lacking. And I think he lacks athleticism too. Now, people are going to say, oh, he's made some very athletic saves where he dives around or whatever. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about body control. I'm talking about being able to explode one way, and then all of a sudden you have to plant an edge, you have to have body control, and you explode the other way. Like, I feel like so many times we see Cayden Primeau where he pushes one direction, and if the play's there, he's going to be in the right position. But if the play moves to another location, it takes a while for him to get there. So that's where the speed and the athleticism of goaltending is important. And I think he's behind in these two fronts.
He's dead on. It's absolutely dead on.
Yep.
And, you might say, who's Marty Biron? Well, Marty Biron keeps a very, very detailed book on every goaltender in the National Hockey League.
Yes, he does.
He knows what he's talking about. He has the ability to break down goaltending. If you miss that episode, it's still relevant today because he also talks about Sam Montembeault. It is Canadiens Connection episode 253. Find it on our website, canadiensconnection.fm, episode 253 from July 22nd, 2023. Skip forward to the second segment and listen to exclusively, as you said, Marty Biron breaking down goaltenders in the Habs organization. And Cayden Primeau, who was Marty talking about there? The kind of goaltender who has the ultimate body control, can explode in a controlled way in either direction, but be a very technical goaltender. That is Carey Price all over. And certainly, can Cayden Primeau throw his body around? Can Sam Montembeault throw his body around? Yeah, and make the occasional spectacular save. But that's not what it's about. It's being able to control your body. It's be able to read and anticipate plays. And when you do so, when you move, you have NHL speed, NHL caliber speed in your movements, in your agility. And that's the flaw. That's what he lacks. That's what Cayden Primeau lacks. And in another clip that we could have played for you, he says Cayden Primeau's development at that point had plateaued. And Sam Montembeault was still on the upswing. So there's a very detailed breakdown of Cayden Primeau as a goaltender and as potential of being an NHL goaltender, and he's not gonna improve any of those aspects of his goaltending sitting on the bench for 10 consecutive times. You have to put him in Laval. If he doesn't get to Laval, oh well, that's unfortunate, and he becomes somebody else's problem.
You heard in that clip that Biron talked about how he said, but some people are going to say, but wait, he makes some really athletic, spectacular saves. And Biron went on to kind of explain his way around that. Well, Pascal Vincent, the head coach in Laval, who is currently coaching Jakub Dobes, well, was until 24 hours ago, has a different and very astute perspective on goaltenders that make those big, spectacular highlight reel saves, and it might not be what you think it is. And a stick tap to our own Chris G for getting this exclusive audio from Pascal Vincent that you won't hear anywhere else.
His hockey sense. I think he's got real good hockey sense. He reads the play. I've had good goalies in the past, the Marc-Andre Fleury of this world, and then Andre Pavelek and Eric Comrie and Hellebuck, obviously, in Winnipeg. And there's one thing in common. Those guys have great hockey sense. They see the play develop in front of them. They're not so much reactive. And when they do so, he's quite athletic, which I admire, but his hockey sense, his read of the game puts him in a good position. We don't see him having to make big saves very often. And the reason for it is the big saves are most of the time coming from, I'm in a bad position, I'm desperate to make that save. We don't see that very often from him. So it tells me that he's in a good position and he reads the play well. So that's one thing I really like. And his size, obviously, he's a big goalie. Pascal Vincent talking there on Jakub Dobes, that his best quality, yeah, he's got the size, he's a big goaltender, but it's his hockey sense, his ability to read the play, his ability to anticipate. He's athletic, but his big saves come from desperation. And then speaking about Jakub Dobes, having great hockey sense, much like, and he mentioned goaltenders that he has coached before, Marc-Andre Fleury, Andre Pavelek, and Connor Hellebuck. Now, I'm sure if you press him on it, he's not saying that Dobes is the next Hellebuck. He's saying that in this specific quality, hockey sense, that's what he notices in Dobes and what other great goaltenders have. And I just ask, if Pascal Vincent knows that's important, and Marty Biron knows that's important, why doesn't Marty St. Louis in being able to evaluate Cayden Primeau?
Well, that's a very good question. Would love to get an answer to that, but you might have something muttered under the breath if you tried to ask him that. All of that leads up to the fact that Jakub Dobes has absolutely, it's not just that Cayden Primeau has not performed. Jakub Dobes has earned this recall to the NHL because of the quality of his play over the past season and a half. And we're going to hear a few quotes from him in just a moment. I will say the Canadiens are already about halfway through their first period against the Florida Panthers as we record this. And guys like Kulikov and so forth have obviously tried to get up in Dobes's face in the crease, and they are quickly going to learn that Dobes has a little bit of Carey Price in him.
He does.
He takes no guff from anyone,
Nope.
and he defends that crease with every ounce of the definition of that word, defend. And you could see they were kind of like, oh, okay, this kid is not going to let us push him around in the net. A couple of times that has happened already. So still 0-0. But
And he's got a quirky personality. He's a very
he does.
likable
He does,
character. He's wonderful to talk to.
So first, let's hear from him on just kind of the whirlwind that happened for him once he got news that he was being recalled to the Montreal Canadiens.
A little crazy in a sense. I found out yesterday at 6 p.m. after practice in Laval. So my mom was in town. So we need to book her ticket to here. So she's already here too. So besides that, everything was pretty chill. But I just wanted to take care of my mom so she can enjoy it and she doesn't need to sit in Montreal and watch it from a TV. So that's all taken care of. So now I just can focus on hockey. So.
He knows where his bread's buttered.
Yeah, take care of your mom. He's making his first his NHL debut and concerned about his mom. His mom had come over and to spend time at Christmas with him, was headed back, but quickly they got a ticket for her to go to Florida. Also, in the Panthers arena is his billet family that he's been living with as well.
That's right, which I think is a very nice gesture as well. So, okay, nothing like not shying, nothing like, as you said, getting thrown into the deep end for your debut. Why not play the Stanley Cup champions in your NHL debut? Well, if you have followed Laval at all, if you've listened to any interviews that Dobes has done, this young man does not lack in confidence, and don't think he batted an eyelid really about going up against the Florida Panthers today. Yeah,
I mean, I want to play in this league. Everyone wants to play in this league, so you got to compete against the best. There is, you cannot hide as a goalie. So I would just go there, show myself, try to help the team, and we'll see what happens. I'm really excited, to challenge myself against the best, and I'm confident in my abilities. And as I said, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Hockey's unpredictable, and we'll see. It will be an exciting day tomorrow.
He's just
very calm.
He's humble. He's calm.
Yeah.
Why not challenge yourself against the best? I'm confident in my abilities, he says. He's just a delightful person, in addition to being a very calm goaltender.
He, when asked, did credit the preparation that he's had playing for Laval for the last season and a half to get him ready for this moment.
I mean, I get goosebumps every single national anthem, at Place Bell. So, like, playing in these buildings or against, better players, it's kind of, I think I'll be fine. But you never know. I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But I feel like Rocket prepared me for, bigger challenges.
I think I'll be fine.
Yeah, as they say, Place Bell is a mini Bell Center. Lots of fans, lots of noise, lots of hype. And I liked him saying that he still gets goosebumps every time in Place Bell that they play the anthem, and said it's good prep for going into an NHL arena.
We wish him the best of luck. He's doing all right so far. Hopefully next week on the show we'll have a good game, a good result to talk about for Jakub Dobes. But either way, win or lose, a big congratulations to him and his family on this call-up and making his NHL debut. It's a big moment for the young man. It's not going to be his last NHL start, that's for sure. And as I said, he has earned this recall. He has played and conducted himself on and off the ice very well in his year and a half with the Laval Rocket. And we'll just wish him the best moving forward. So that brings us to our Canadiens Connection question of the week. This is where we ask you a question and we want to know how you feel about it. We want you to text us, leave us a message on YouTube or on our social media platforms in reply to this question. And the best answers will get read on next week's episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast. So here you go. If you were Kent Hughes, what would your next move be for the Canadiens goaltending situation? And this is kind of a multiple choice. Would you pursue a veteran goalie to stabilize the roster? Or would you stick with developing the younger talent? And we could certainly see either perspective and reasons why, pros and cons on each side. We want to know what you think. If you were Kent Hughes, what would your next move be for the Canadiens goaltending situation? Pursue a veteran goalie or stick with developing younger talent? Send us a text on the Rocket Sports text line at 5853-ROCKET. Head over to our YouTube channel, InsideTheCanadiens.com, and leave us a message there, or hit us up on social media at Habs Connection, X, Facebook, Instagram. Leave us a message, and you might just hear your answer read on next week's show. We are going to take our final break right now on the Canadiens Connection podcast. Up next, we are going to hear from you on last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week. And we had some good responses. You won't want to miss it. So stay with us. You're listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
We all love settling in our favorite chair at home to watch a night of NHL action, but nothing beats getting to see your favorite team play live. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I'm looking right now in the Game Time app at the Montreal Canadiens' upcoming homestand, and I'm seeing ticket prices starting at $30. $30 to get into the Bell Center to see the Montreal Canadiens. There are tons of deals available. What I really like about the Game Time app for tickets is their all-in pricing. If you toggle the feature on the app for all-in pricing, it shows the complete total cost for the tickets up front so that you don't get any surprise fees at checkout. You also get seat views. You can select to see a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what your view is going to look like. They have a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And the Game Time app just makes it so simple. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps in the app. Last minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast, episode 328 here on Rocket Sports Radio. Don't forget, follow us on social media, follow us on our YouTube channel, and be sure you subscribe to the podcast on any platform that you listen or watch. We never want you to miss an episode, and we have a lot of great things coming for you in 2025. We don't want you to miss a minute of it. Don't forget, also, if you're subscribing on YouTube, tap the notification bell so that you automatically get notified anytime we drop a new video, whether it's a Canadiens Connection podcast episode or one of the video columns that I put out once in a while, a couple times a month. Make sure you check for those as well. And hey, really, the best thing that you can do for us, call it a belated Christmas gift, call it an early New Year's well wish, is really to subscribe, like, and share this podcast episode, leave us a review if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to do that. Spotify allows you to leave a 5-star review. Apple Music lets you do that as well. All of those things really go a long way towards helping us reach even more Habs fans around the world. And that's really our goal here, is to reach as many of you as we possibly can. So we would greatly appreciate that.
And you know what I enjoyed this past week was all of the just Merry Christmas messages, Happy Holidays messages from our listeners via social media, via our Rocket Sports text line, and on email. And our email address is hello@rocketsportsmedia.com. We got some really nice messages from Montreal Canadiens hockey ops staff, the Laval Rocket hockey ops staff. It was really nice to hear from them and to correspond with them over the holidays.
Absolutely. Don't forget, we want to hear from you regarding the Canadiens Connection question of the week. I'll give it to you one more time so that you can start thinking about your answer. If you were Kent Hughes, what would your next move be for the Canadiens goaltending situation? Would you pursue a veteran goalie to stabilize the roster, or would you stick with developing the younger talent? Don't forget, send us your replies. You have a week to do it, and you might just hear your answer on next week's show.
And maybe you've got a time machine that can take us back to prior to the Jake Allen trade.
Maybe.
I don't know what, or maybe you have another solution. We want to hear from you.
Definitely. Last week, you certainly had plenty to say about last week's question, which was, if you could undo one trade made by the current Habs management, which one would it be and why? This is where we kind of broke down the most impactful trades, good or bad, in the current Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton tenure. And so we asked, if you could undo one trade that duo has made, which one would it be and why? And we heard from a lot of you on all sorts of different ways and platforms. You have one from a longtime listener that came in through the text line.
The Rocket Sports text line, 5853 Rockets, sorry. It was Dino in the Ottawa-Gatineau area. He says, "Salute, Rick. Said it before, I'll say it again. You belong with the CH management team. That's plan A." Love that, Dino. Thank you. He goes on to say, "Plan B is a Habs radio broadcast with Rocket Sports.
All right.
If Jeff Molson denies that, we go underground. Rocket Sports would be a renegade Habs radio. Yourself, Amy, Chris, and Brian doing play-by-play. Our dear friend, Brian.
Our commissioner.
No. He's talking about Brian Rogers.
Yes.
Yeah, Raj from the Growlers.
That's right.
Jeff Molson will be unable to deny its merit and popularity. Going to revolutionize the sporting world. Take good care. And it's from Dino. I love that message.
Always love to hear from Dino. I had a couple of messages from him prior to Christmas as well through email, and it's just always great to hear from him. Over on YouTube, She26 has another very enthusiastic reply. She starts it off by just laughing and saying, "I watched the presser when Arpin Basu of The Athletic asked that question, and St. Louis' reply. Seriously, I could not stop laughing. Another reason to laugh, Rotten, meaning Rotenberg, that is Ivan Demidov's head coach, is whacked. Where does he get this stuff from? Marty St. Louis?" And she says, "Oh my gosh, the Laval-Belleville game with 92 penalty minutes and Amy reading every single one. I couldn't stop laughing again." Apparently, we got the funny bone out for She26 last week. She said, "I've opted to stick with the funny stuff today, given that it's the holidays. I can't even play nice with the question of the week." With that said, I want to thank you both. So she opted to not answer the question of the week because she wouldn't be able to stay positive, and she wanted to do so because of the holidays. She says, "With that said, I want to thank you both for your very informative podcasts. I appreciate every single one of them and the amount of work that it takes to put them together every week. I wish you both a very happy Christmas and an even happier New Year." That means a lot to us. We appreciate your thoughtful comments every single week. We always look forward to hearing from you, and we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well. We look forward to hearing from you in 2025.
Very nice. And same to you. Happy New Year to you and all of our listeners.
That's right. We also had a comment on YouTube from Leonid. This is our longtime listener who is based in St. Petersburg in Russia. And this is in response to that same section of the podcast where we were listening to clips from Roma Rotenberg as Kent Hughes and company was over there visiting Ivan Demidov, and Rotenberg had talked about how,
Bell Center used to be the best arena.
That's right.
However,
but the new, SKA's arena really top of the line. And Leonid writes in and says, there are many jokes about this new arena. SKA arena was opened, then closed because something was not ready, then opened again. Greetings from St. Petersburg. Leonid. He's just kind of little reality check there.
Yeah.
No propaganda on the arena. Oh.
On YouTube. Oh, this one's directly to me.
This is direct. This was fun.
This one comes from @AlanW73. He says, is Rick Stevens ever going to walk back the way he used to talk about Monty? How's Monty not the goalie of the future and that he's not very good? Habs need a backup goalie, but Monty has proven that he's a bona fide number one goalie, in my opinion.
It's a good thing that I'm not reviewing this.
Well, I've said many times that I wish we could play copyrighted music on the. Of course, we can't.
We can, but yeah.
It would be just an audio reply to this. The song "Give Me a Reason," Portishead.
Yeah.
Give me a reason. If I see Sam Montembeault become a legitimate number one goaltender in the net. He is a default number one goaltender right now. He's a placeholder right now until the Canadiens have a legitimate, bona fide number one goaltender. And despite what that Montreal reporter says on Sportsnet, where I saw this very same bona fide number one goaltender quote, he's, trained SEAL. There's nothing that speaks to that. Look at any metric you want, and it just isn't there. But I don't have to.
You don't have to defend yourself.
Case. I don't have to. We have a reply to Alan W73 by Habinations @Habinations. He says, "I'll defend the issue. So, in your opinion, Monty is the future and Fowler isn't? He's sitting in someone's chair, keeping it warm because it's a rebuild. Just like Doc is the third line right wing when Demigod comes to town. You people are young. 2 or 3 players on this team at the moment will be around when the window opens. Monty isn't one of them. Sorry. Go Habs go from Habinations."
Well said.
Yep.
Well said. And yes, we're looking at Jakub Dobes right now as a recall, and he is, I believe, going to have a place in the future. But don't forget Jacob Fowler's coming. And
That's
Jacob
right.
Fowler could very well be a big deal when he makes the jump to pro. Might not go NHL right away, but Jacob Fowler is probably right now the goalie of the future for the Montreal Canadiens. We just have to wait. So Monty's going to have to do for now. But that's the only reason he's a number one goaltender right now. And I like how he gives the example of Kirby Dach as well. When Demidov comes over, Kirby Dach is not going to be playing where he's currently playing in the lineup anymore if he continues to play the way that he has been. So I agree with everything he says there, that probably 2 or 3 of the players who are currently on this roster will still be around when the rebuild is quote unquote complete.
Maybe a couple more.
But Montembeault, if the rebuild will have been successful, Montembeault won't be one of them.
Yeah, he's not going to be. He doesn't have it to be the goaltender of a cup-winning team. Just doesn't.
Great responses. And I will say to Alan W73, we appreciate your comment anyway. We as long as it's friendly and respectful, we encourage friendly debate, asking questions, ask us to defend our opinions. And so we're happy to hear from all of our listeners and readers and
Happy
followers.
to read those kind of questions. Yeah.
Happy to read them. And also have to say, I don't mind our listeners going to bat for us and just jumping in there to answer for us. So that was great. Thanks so much to all of you. It is going to be a busy week for the Canadiens, let me tell you. They are currently playing against the Florida Panthers on Saturday afternoon. Then they turn around and they will play. They'll just go short trip down the road in Florida to play against the Tampa Bay Lightning on Sunday at 5 p.m. New Year's Eve, I hope you've not made any New Year's Eve plans, because I don't really know who, like, one hand in the hockey community has got to talk to the other, because on New Year's Eve, Montreal is playing in Vegas at 3:00 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday on New Year's Eve. The Winter Classic starts at 5:00 that day. For some reason, it's not on New Year's Day. It's on New Year's Eve this year. And the U.S. plays Canada in the last day of the preliminary round for the World Juniors at 8.
Well, your day's set.
So get comfortable, people, because you're not leaving the couch for about 9 hours on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year to everyone on the 1st. And then we're not done yet. Before we come back here again for our next episode, the Canadiens play a Friday night game on January 3rd. That's an 8 p.m. start. They will be playing against the Blackhawks in Chicago. So 4 games between episodes. It's a busy week.
And just pay attention to the Rocket Sports account on Twitter at Rocket Sports, because none of those 4 games start at the traditional 7:00 time. 1:00 already underway. Actually, the first period is complete. Shots 8-8, scores 0-0 between the Canadiens and Florida. 5:00 on Sunday, 3:00 New Year's Eve, and then 8:00 next Friday.
Oh, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. But not too exhausted for our next episode, which will then take place on Saturday, January 4th, our very first episode of the new year. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for being with us today. Every week. It's been a terrific 2024. Thanks to all of you, our listeners and viewers. Let's make it even bigger and better in 2025. We've got lots of great content coming for you in the new year. And we appreciate you being here with us every step of the way. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you, Rick.
Happy New Year to you.
And we wish you all a very healthy and prosperous 2025. We'll see you in 2025 again. Thanks for listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Canadiens Connection. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Rocket Sports.